Driving a legal challenge. Uber takes Toronto to court.
Tonight, embarking on a battle against City Hall. A lawsuit launched. The destination set for the courts. Good evening. We begin with developing news. Uber filing its injunction late this afternoon.
At issue, a plan to limit the number of cars on the road. The rideshare company hoping to compel council to reverse its decision. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us live with the details. Natalie.
Well, Michelle, it was less than 2 months ago that City Council voted suddenly to freeze the number of ride-sharing licenses in this city. Uber Canada said then that it was considering its legal options, and tonight we have the result, an application to the court to quash that council vote, alleging the city acted in bad faith. Michael Johnson Roach signed up to drive for Uber in Toronto a few months ago, hoping to make some extra income amid the rising cost of living.
It's getting crazy living in the city. So, I already work as a personal trainer. That's barely holding up right now.
He paid for and completed the city-mandated training needed for his Uber approval, but just a few days later learned he was locked out because of a surprise move by City Hall. A council vote to freeze the number of ride-sharing licenses until at least the end of next year.
I work downtown. I'm downtown for most of the day, and I can't pick up anybody, which kind of sucks because of the cap on the licensing.
The proponents, led by the mayor, argue that freezing the number of licenses would reduce emissions and decrease congestion in the core. But today, Uber Canada filed for an injunction, calling council's cap illegal. Court documents obtained by CTV News detail the allegations that the city failed to provide notice of the license cap contrary to its own procedural bylaws, that the city enacted the license cap in bad faith, and that it unlawfully discriminates in the administration of its private transportation company licensing scheme.
We heard from the chief solicitor at the time, City Legal, that this, of course, opens us up to all sorts of risks.
Councillor Brad Bradford fought the cap on the floor of council, arguing it would leave people waiting longer and drive up the cost of ride-sharing.
Making a unilateral move like that from the mayor's office exposes the city to liability, legal issues, and at a time when we've got a lot of challenges, affordability, congestion, financial challenges, the last thing we need to be doing is making policy on the fly.
Uber Canada issuing this statement about its lawsuit today, writing Mayor Chow's arbitrary rideshare cap is illegal. The city failed to provide notice to the public, and the process was tainted with bias and influence from special interests.
Please revoke it. It's just, the reality is it's impacting us more negatively than whatever positive effect they thought it might have, and it's hit our pockets.
The lawsuit claims that Uber will be irreparably harmed if the license cap is not stayed, and that the freeze will lead to longer wait times and degraded service for riders. Now, this is a developing story, with the mayor responding just a few minutes ago. Olivia Chow saying that there's not much that she can say about it at this point, now that this issue is in front of the courts, though she did say this about why she wanted to freeze the number of ride-sharing licenses.
What I do know is that what the city did, A, deal with the congestion and problem that everyone is facing. It deals with greenhouse gas emission. And thirdly, making life a bit more affordable for Uber driver.
Mayor Chow saying it's now over to the city's legal team to defend council in court. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Natalie. Still to come tonight, getting the jump on an escaped kangaroo in Oshawa. A fugitive for days. How authorities were finally able to wrangle the runaway roo. It's a wild story. We have the details coming up.
But first, there are growing fears tonight about a string of fires at a Burlington subdivision.
The latest ripped through homes under construction early this morning. It's the third blaze in a matter of weeks, and police say they are suspicious. CTV's John Musselman joins us live from the scene near Walker's Line and Dundas Street West. John.
Well, that's right, Nathan. Police are classifying these fires as suspicious, and there is concern in this neighborhood about what's happening here, and they're worried about their safety. This viewer video was recorded by a resident who lives right behind the houses that caught fire. It was just after 4 a.m. when fire crews arrived on the scene. Prakash Avasalera says the sound of the fire woke him up. When he looked out the bedroom window, he couldn't believe what he was seeing.
The house was in flames. It was so huge, so heated. The heat was too much. The next I called 911. They put me on fire department, pushed me to fire department and called them. I said, okay, hey, I'm calling. I was so struggling to get my words. It was 3:30 in the morning, and you see an incident like this, oh my God, it was scary.
This fire marks the third time in recent weeks that Burlington fire crews have responded to calls in this subdivision. The fire marshal's office is investigating all of them.
We have notified the Ontario Fire Marshal, who will be attending the scene at some point throughout the day. Halton Police's investigative team will also be here, and we'll go from there.
This woman says there was a smaller fire in the same home under construction just 2 days ago. Neighbors are concerned it's deliberate.
I think it's because of the high prices of the houses. Interest rates are high. Nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's doing anything about it.
Whatever the motive may be, police are looking into it. In a statement to CTV News, Halton Regional Police says it is investigating, and we do consider these fires suspicious. We're asking anyone who may have dash cam or surveillance footage of the area around the time of the fires started, 4 a.m., to contact police. CTV News obtained the security video from the home beside where the fire started. Watch the right of the screen. Two men can be seen walking towards the home that went up in flames. It's time-stamped at 3:19 a.m., 35 minutes before the fire started. The homeowner has shown this video to Halton Regional Police. This resident, a mother of two small children, says the rash of fires have people here on edge.
I don't know how I can sleep at this point, and I have two small kids, and even my son was crying this morning, saying that, I want to move. I don't feel safe, so that makes me really, really sad. 4
homes under construction were destroyed. 2 homes on either side of the fire were occupied, and the residents got out safely. And investigators with the fire marshal's office are here on the scene, but we're told this investigation is now in charge with the Halton Regional Police. Reporting live in Burlington, I'm John Mussum, and I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, John. And still to come tonight, a respiratory virus season reality check. A warning from Ontario's top doctor when cases are set to peak and steps to protect yourself and others.
But first, let's take a live look outside. A mostly gray Monday, cloudy and cool with some on and off flurries in some areas. Michelle Jobin is here with a look at the current conditions. Michelle.
Well, Nathan, yes. I mean, a pretty seasonable day in terms of our temperature. We did, of course, have a fair bit of cloud cover. We have seen recently a little bit more shower and or flurry mixing activity in and around the western edges of the Golden Horseshoe. But if we zoom out, not dealing with this snow affecting eastern Ontario, and it has been a lot, preceded, of course, by freezing rain. Wind speeds in behind that system, though, have been brisk for us. They're subsiding a little bit, 17 kilometers an hour sustained here in the city of Toronto. And that's good news as they've dialed down a little bit. It feels a little bit more comfortable, but right now 2 degrees, feeling like -2 after a high of 3 degrees today, which is spot on where we should be in our normals this time of the year. Very early in the morning, so overnight things will get a little bit cooler, and around 6 or 7 we'll reach -6, feeling like -10. Not very gusty winds, but it doesn't take much to get to a feel of -10, and we'll have some cloudy periods. So bundle up in the morning and I'll let you know what else you can expect coming up. Back to you, Nathan.
All right, thank you, Michelle. I want to turn to a warning coming from Ontario's top doctor. Cold and flu season is here and cases are on the rise.
COVID-19 and influenza are circulating, set to peak over the holiday season, and the province is calling on people to take steps to protect themselves. CTV's Allison Hurst reports.
What tends to go hand in hand with the holiday winter season? Flu season.
Everybody's had their flu shots, their COVID shots.
Doctors say that's key, especially with more gatherings of family and friends this month.
I have a mom who's 93, and so, she's at risk. So we've got to protect everybody.
I didn't get mine because I already had the flu and I already had COVID, so I feel like I'm pretty good.
I'm planning to fly back home for the holidays, so it makes sense to get the booster before then. Yeah. Don't want to infect my family. That'll be a bad Christmas gift to give them.
Ontario's provincial health officer says influenza is on the rise, while hundreds are currently in hospital, testing positive for the major 3 viruses circulating. Roughly 220 with RSV, about 100 with influenza, and 1,700 testing positive for COVID.
A significant impact on our hospitals, on our emergency departments, and our frontline workers. And it can be mitigated if we can try to take those best efforts to protect each other over the holidays.
Dr. Kieran Moore says getting vaccinated now gives enough time to build immunity before the holiday week.
We roughly have 40% of those over 60 have come forward to get vaccinated, so 60% haven't. And yet that's the population with the highest risk of being hospitalized over the holiday season.
This mother says she and her kids have appointments booked.
It's very important. We've got elderly people in our family and we're having elderly people at our dinner. So if we're sick, it's a very bad thing.
Especially as doctors warn of a lot of flu virus circulating by the end of December and early January. Alison Hurst, CTV News.
She was elected leader of the Ontario Liberal Party over the weekend, and Bonnie Crombie's wasting no time taking aim at the Ford government.
People are ready for a new government because this government has proven who they are. They lack transparency, accountability, secret deals, payoffs for their rich developer friends. So people are ready for an accountable government that's transparent. I hope to be that leader and present myself as someone who is strong and experienced and led with transparency and accountability in Mississauga.
Crombie appeared on CP24 Breakfast. The Mississauga mayor was elected as the Ontario Liberal Party's new leader Saturday. Crombie defeated federal MPs Nate Erskine-Smith and Yasser Naqvi, as well as provincial MPP Ted Sue. Crombie says she'll be stepping down as Mississauga mayor once she's completed the city's budget process.
The Ontario government has introduced new legislation to crack down on unethical dog breeding operations, often known as puppy mills.
The Lieutenant Governor and Council may make regulations prohibiting the sale or transfer of dogs under certain circumstances. The operation of puppy mills is prohibited.
The government wants to make it illegal to inbreed. The province will also make separating puppies from mothers before 8 weeks of age illegal, as well as make it illegal to keep breeding dogs in filthy environments. Well, we want to hop to our next story, one that's been the talk of Oshawa and the GTA for days.
After more than 3 days on the run, an escaped kangaroo has been safely returned to the city zoo. But the journey to get there is quite the tale. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live with all the details. Beth.
Nathan, for days, residents and volunteers have been seeing the kangaroo, but nobody was able to catch it until this morning when 2 Durham police officers made the catch. After more than 3 days on the loose, hopping around, the 4-year-old female kangaroo is finally back in the barn at the Oshawa Zoo. She was spotted around 3 this morning, eventually captured by law enforcement.
Warden officers were able to come up behind her, grab her tail, and essentially take her into custody.
Police say officers did their best to keep her calm, but she got frightened, struck an officer, turning on his body camera.
It just shows that there was obviously some sort of contact, but I don't know if he was punched by the kangaroo or just bumped by the kangaroo. Either way, no charges have been laid on the kangaroo.
Thursday night, the kangaroo was one of 2 being transferred to a zoo in Quebec and was scheduled to spend the night at the Oshawa Zoo when it jumped over the handlers' heads. Early this morning, police lights nearby got Sherry and Alex Sylvester out of bed. They helped try to corral the marsupial, concerned for its well-being.
I just looked at it and said, please don't kick me, and I started to back up, and then I let the police officer go in front of me because I thought he's got body protection on and I don't.
So we try to maneuver him to the barn. We got him like within 10 feet of the door, and the door was open, and I started to approach him with my hands out, right, really close, and then he just bolted past the barn, behind the house, and then down to the road again. We gave up because it was freezing and I was in my pajamas.
While some animal experts call the kangaroo's capture good news, questions remain.
Having the systems in place to make sure that can be a seamless transfer to stop this kind of incident from happening clearly wasn't in place.
Now safe and sound, the Oshawa Zoo says the kangaroo is doing great.
She is resting, she is warm, she is well fed, she has got fresh water, and I think she is much happier now than she was over the past few days.
The wild story that had many people worried has ended well. Ontario's Solicitor General is determining tonight if a review of the situation is required. The Oshawa Zoo says the people who did the transfer were experienced independent contractors. Reporting live in Oshawa, I'm Beth McDonnell. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Beth. And our coverage continues online. You can see more photos and video and details of the kangaroo's big adventure on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
To a CTV News investigation looking at how authorities are linking separate attacks on figures in the tow truck industry. One, a tow truck operator shot on Christmas Eve.
Another, an attempt on the life of a lawyer trying to crack down on bogus insurance bills that was recorded on video. As CTV's John Woodward reports, a judge handed down a stiff sentence to one man in the middle of it all.
Safety is off, and we managed to catch it right in that corner right there. It was beautiful.
This is cell phone video of an attempted murder obtained by CTV News after the trial of Thomas Slewinski. He and an associate were driving down a highway in Vaughan in 2019, gun in hand. Their target, a civil lawyer driving one lane over. Lisa Carr had been working to challenge bogus insurance claims in Ontario's notorious tow truck industry and gotten the wrong kind of attention. She had already had her office vandalized and set on fire. One gunman shot up her Vaughan parking lot and pointed a gun at a woman he believed was Carr, telling her she was suing the wrong people.
I couldn't imagine that somebody would do that over a tow fee.
That's Carr talking to W5, saying she went into hiding and shut down her law firm. The video shows Slewinski pulling up to her car. There's an audible click.
It didn't work.
The gun apparently jammed. That video found on Slewinski's phone after an unrelated arrest in Brantford.
So what I'm going to do is I'll put you back in your cell.
He told officers a man named Z ordered the hit. Slewinski said he intended to botch it, but took the recording to show Z he had tried. Slewinski admitted he was involved in surveillance on another hit. In that case, gunmen did shoot their target, tow truck driver Sohail Rapaport, outside a Christmas party months before. Mr. Slewinski said he made some terrible mistakes and created a trail of damage, which he regrets and for which he takes full responsibility, said Justice Michelle First in a ruling. At the time of his offenses, he would do almost anything to get drugs. She sentenced him to 12 years behind bars for his role as a common denominator in these appalling events. All of Mr. Slewinski's offenses were cold, calculated, and callous. They caused terrible harm.
It just makes me sad.
Lawyers say an attack on them should be taken very seriously.
The legal system cannot be affected by intimidation.
Tow truck prosecutions are continuing, including against two men charged with first-degree murder in Rapaport's case. That trial starts this week. The tow truck corruption allegedly attracting even police officers. One OPP officer pleaded guilty to playing favorites with tow companies. Two other officers awaiting a verdict in the coming months. John Woodward, CTV News.
A new campaign launched in York Region today aimed at raising awareness about intimate partner violence.
Intimate partner violence is an epidemic. It is so pervasive that 1 in 3 women throughout the world will experience physical and/or sexual violence by a partner. We can no longer distance ourselves from this reality.
The project is a partnership between police, York Region Center for Community Safety, and 482 Collective. For 3 months, there will be ads on buses and billboards promoting resources for victims of intimate partner violence. Organizers say the goal is to help remove barriers for survivors to access support.
A recent cyber attack will be on the agenda when the Toronto Public Library Board meets tonight. The library's website, public computers, and branch printers were targeted in a ransomware attack in October. Officials believe the data of current and former employees was likely stolen. The board will receive a cybersecurity update at tonight's meeting, but it will be confidential because of the subject matter being discussed. The library says it's working with experts to restore its systems, but expects them to remain down until January.
In Ottawa, hundreds of people gathered on Parliament Hill today to show solidarity with Israel.
But there are allegations of anti-Semitism after some supporters planning to attend were left stranded in Toronto. CTV's Leah LaRocque has the details.
There were supposed to be more buses arriving, but 17 buses that were supposed to leave Toronto just didn't show up. And organizers say they believe it was intentional.
And all of those people were left this morning in the dark, in the cold, knowing and thinking that someone wasn't coming to get them because of the fact that they were Jewish.
Corey Herskew was supposed to take a bus from Toronto, but at the last minute decided to drive.
I think it's a really unfortunate situation. I think that people just want to come out and support. There's no room for hate anywhere.
Last month, buses in Detroit didn't show up, leaving hundreds scrambling to get to a pro-Israeli rally in Washington, D.C. Jewish leaders say that this was deliberate.
It seems to be a blatant act of anti-Semitism in order to disrupt our freedom to get here and to support Israel and each other.
Some were able to scramble and find another way to get to Ottawa, from a replacement SUV to driving themselves, while others weren't able to find a way and had to stay in Toronto.
The weight of history on our shoulders.
Thousands supporting Israel and its war against Hamas, including grade 7 student Tahila Shapiro.
Well, my family is more north, so they're okay, but I do have family that is south, and they're okay, thank goodness. But I just really want to support everyone in Israel who is not okay.
Her school is here denouncing the rise in hate.
This is about being together and standing together at a moment where our community needs to be together.
Bring them home! Many worried about loved ones. Maureen Lesham's cousin was taken hostage.
She was celebrating life the day of October 7th when Hamas terrorists stormed in, seriously wounded her and took her hostage.
Far from the fighting, the grief still raw.
Thousands of people come from all over Canada to stand up for our community when we seem to need it most.
Leah LaRocque, CTV News.
The latest now on the war between Israel and Hamas. And a warning, this next story contains disturbing content.
Israel has widened its offensive into the more densely populated southern Gaza Strip, and that has left Palestinians with few safe places to go. CTV's Adrian Gabriel reports.
The war has reached a new terrifying tipping point.
You have not thousands, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that are on the edge of existing.
Earlier today, Israel ordered Palestinians to evacuate parts of Gaza's main southern city of Khan Yunis, though many on the ground say they have nowhere left to go. This 2-month-old baby injured was rushed into a hospital in that city after his father said the building they were staying in was hit by an airstrike. The infant's father saying they told us to leave Gaza. There's a war in Gaza, so we left the north and came here to the south just like they asked. But this is what we found in the south. What can we do? This is my son. He was born on the second day of the war.
The next couple of days is just going to be sheer hell for civilians in Gaza.
Israel has been telling Palestinians to head to the south towards the Mediterranean coast and towards Rafah near the Egyptian border, leading to growing concerns of an even larger humanitarian crisis.
As Israel moves further and further south, this balloon gets squeezed even more and more, and there's nowhere for these innocent civilians to go.
This woman saying, look here, there is no resistance, not Hamas, not anything. We were just women in a house. We don't have anything. We don't have anywhere to go. What should we do? Israeli forces captured large swaths of the northern half of Gaza in November. Following the collapse of the week-long truce on Friday, the IDF have swiftly pushed south.
We have entered a new phase in our war against Hamas. Hamas chose war when it broke the hostage release agreement on December 1st.
According to the International Red Cross, it's civilians facing the brunt of this war, with the head of that organization calling the level of humanitarian suffering in Gaza intolerable. The death toll since the temporary ceasefire ended on Friday has already reached roughly 900 people, according to the Hamas-run Health Authority in Gaza. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Here in Canada, the Assembly of First Nations will choose its next leader this week. A new national chief is going to be elected during a 3-day special assembly in Ottawa. The vote is expected on Wednesday. 6 candidates are in the running for the job, following the ouster of Roseanne Archibald. Chiefs are also expected to vote on resolutions for a national homelessness action plan, languages funding, and health care, among other priorities.
In Dubai, Canada has announced additional draft regulations on methane at the COP28 climate conference.
We're now aiming for at least 75% reduction for the oil and gas sector by 2030 in Canada. The accuracy and understanding of how much and where methane is emitted and that is reported properly is critical to achieving methane targets.
The regulations would almost entirely ban the release or burning of methane from oil and gas production sites. The Trudeau government is also spending $30 million to establish a center for accurate reporting of methane emission levels and locations.
A former American diplomat's been charged with spying for Cuba for more than 40 years. Victor Manuel Rocha was U.S. ambassador to Bolivia. He's accused of serving as a covert agent for Cuba's intelligence services since at least 1981. The Americans say they will work with partners in the intelligence community to assess any long-term national security implications. Rocha is facing multiple federal crimes.
We have new video tonight of an iceberg about 3 times the size of New York City. It is called A23A and is the world's largest, weighing in at nearly 1 trillion metric tons. This iceberg has been drifting for several months, but has now been spotted by a British research ship. The crew was able to collect seawater samples around the colossal berg as it drifts out of Antarctic waters. It is rare to see one this size on the move, so scientists will be watching its trajectory closely. It split from an ice shelf back in 1986.
South Korea has taken another step toward keeping a closer eye on its northern neighbor. There was a successful third test flight today of this solid fuel space rocket. It lifted off from a barge at around 2 p.m. local time. The launch placed a small Earth observation satellite into orbit. The launch is part of an effort by Seoul to build its own surveillance system to monitor the actions of North Korea.
Coming up, look who's back, sporting his ugly holiday sweater. Ryan Reynolds puts his star power to work recruiting celebrity friends for a SickKids campaign you have to see.
And I'm Pat Foran, coming up on Consumer Alert. As we approach the holiday season, some families and friends use wire transfers to send money. But what happens if you wire funds and they never arrive? A North York man says $2,500 he sent went missing. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
It's 2 degrees right now in the city of Toronto. Mostly cloudy. We could see a few flurries or showers in the next little while, then cloudy overnight and cloudy again tomorrow morning. But be prepared for a wind chill near -10 to start the day. It'll be a little more comfortable later on. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
One way to send money to someone in another country is to use a wire transfer, and most are sent and received without a problem.
But if your money does go missing while in transit from one bank to another, it can be difficult to get it back. Pat Foran has one viewer's story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, a North York man wanted to send money to his girlfriend in Cuba and says it's something he's done many times before. But one wire transfer for $2,500 went missing, and he's been trying for over a year to get it back. Zev Berkovich says he fell in love with his 25-year-old girlfriend in Cuba a few years ago and now travels there several times a year to see her. He also uses money transfers to send her funds and usually has no problems. But he says when he used a wire transfer to send $2,500 in June of last year, she never received it.
I've been trying for over a year to figure out what happened to the money. It did not arrive.
He sent the funds using an international money transfer with Royal Bank.
From there, it went to the Cuba bank, but there was no trace of what happened after that.
When CTV News reached out to RBC, a spokesperson said through a detailed investigation, RBC confirmed the authorized transfer reached its intended recipient as specified by our client.
With wire transfers, and it's actually one of the trickiest transactions in the banking system, many things can go wrong.
Omar Ferris is a lecturer at the Ted Rogers School of Retail Management. He says while most wire transfers get to where they should go, he says if there's a mistake in the information or the transfer gets sidetracked during the process, it can be difficult to retrieve funds that go missing.
If there is an issue in the information, if there is an issue in the sender details or whatever the issue is, once the money is taken out, it is very challenging to go back.
Ferris says if you have an issue with a wire transfer, you should file a complaint with your bank, as well as the Ombudsman for Banking Services and the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. Burkovich filed a complaint with his bank, but has been told his case is closed.
They've said, as far as we're concerned, the money reached its destination.
Burkovich now gives his girlfriend money when he visits Cuba, but says he no longer trusts using wire transfers. And most problems with wire transfers happen when people enter financial information incorrectly. It's important when sending funds to triple check accounts carefully, because if funds go missing, you may not get them back. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. All I got to say, surprise, surprise. Not a good surprise.
I knew it was coming. Didn't really know quite how much we were going to get, but it's just one of those things, it's the time of the year. You got to take it as it comes, right?
Snow shovels are being put to good use in various parts of the country tonight. Nova Scotia dealing with a wintry mess on the roads and elsewhere. Nearly 5,000 power outages were reported there earlier today.
And in Quebec, more than 70,000 homes were without power following a wintry blast. Nearly 25 centimeters fell across the province, closing schools in some areas. Montreal was among the hardest hit by the heavy snowfall, and forecasters say more is on the way.
And in Ottawa, there was a messy mix of heavy snow and some freezing rain to contend with. Conditions remain icy in the nation's capital, where school buses were canceled, but schools remained open today. Here in Toronto and the GTA, we have been spared all of that, which is really nice. Rather pleasant for this time of year. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, seeing what's happening in Nova Scotia and Quebec, I think I'm thankful now.
Yes, I mean, all of that is related, and of course, seasonable conditions today. Temperatures where they should be, a little gusty at times, which is an effect of the system that rolled through Ontario and Quebec in eastern Ontario. But all in all, not too bad for us. And as we look ahead, things are getting a little chilly tonight. But I have milder weather in general to talk about for the week ahead. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. So let's take a look at temperatures right now. We reached a high of 3 degrees today at Pearson Airport, which was brief, but right where we should be at this time of the year in terms of our normals. Right now we are sitting at 2, feeling like -2. So earlier we had those winds out of the northwest. Again, that was sort of circulating in behind the system that rolled through eastern Ontario, southern Quebec. And I know if you're in, say, Ottawa or Kingston right now, you're still dealing with that snowfall. And of course, you had quite a lot of freezing rain prior to that in the city of Ottawa. Here, a little closer to home for the Golden Horseshoe, we have seen a fair bit of rain-snow mixing, especially on the western edges of Lake Ontario, circulating over towards Niagara Falls, and that seems to be clearing up as well. Overnight tonight, it's mostly cloud cover for the GTA, still dealing with flurries and snowfall further to the east. -6, though, feeling like -10, so we're getting a little bit cooler, and that's going to be very early in the morning. In fact, maybe when you're heading out the door to go to work, take the kids to school, that's when you'll be feeling that -10 in that vicinity. Tomorrow, though, 2 degrees, so really close to where we should be again. Fair bit of cloud cover again. So satellite and radar image, you can see that system starting to peel off to the east, bringing all that snowfall with it. And if we put our forecast radar in motion, a little bit of enhancement off of Georgian Bay here later on. So you could see some flurry activity from that. But again, mostly cloud cover for the city of Toronto. As we get into tomorrow, there is some activity that's moving through Windsor, possibly up towards St. Thomas and London, but clearing through the Toronto area for the most part as we get through the day. Once we get through Wednesday, that's when I see a few more spotty flurries popping up, especially in the Niagara region up towards the upper Great Lakes. And then Wednesday night, we get another system moving through. So looking at the next 7 days, I mentioned milder weather. So 2 degrees tomorrow, -5 again overnight, and that's after -6 tonight, feeling like -10. 0 for Wednesday with some sunshine, 3 degrees for Thursday with a rain-snow mix, 4 and cloudy for Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, quite mild, but a fair bit of rainfall. Let's talk Toy Mountain now. Our 28th annual Toy Mountain campaign is underway, and we have a special message tonight from Badminton Canada, plus some photos that donors have shared with us.
Badminton Canada is very excited to support CTV News Toronto 28th annual Toy Mountain campaign.
This week, Badminton Canada is hosting the 2023 Yonex Canadian International Challenge, where top players from around the world are competing for a chance to qualify for the 2024 Olympic Games. A donation box will be at the event collecting toys for the Toy Mountain campaign in support of the Salvation Army.
And take a look at all these toys collected by the Lane family. Thank you so much to Victoria Lane for sharing a photo of their 4th toy drive with their furry companion, Parker. Thank you for that. The Fallen Riders support team are also collecting for Toy Mountain. Thank you. And look at all the toys collected by the Metro Group. And of course, we want to thank everybody who has been donating, hosting toy drives, and sharing their photos with us on social media. We love seeing how you're helping us build a toy mountain. Send your pictures or videos to toy.mountain@bellmedia.ca, and you might see your photo or video here on our newscast.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Also tonight, he co-founded Canada's Black Screen Office, telling stories that weren't being told. Just ahead, we look back at the life and legacy of filmmaker and actor Charles Officer.
Well, it has become a signature part of the holidays, a fun, creative initiative to help Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children.
And he's back. Actor Ryan Reynolds has returned wearing his classic ugly sweater. Here's CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan.
Every parent knows that kids, while a magical gift from heaven, can kind of be
It was really just magical. He knows how to walk that line where there's a certain level of humor that he brings, but yet it's always so warm and genuine. It was so much fun for our patients to participate in something that was a little bit different and had a different bit of humor to it.
For the 5th year in a row, actor Ryan Reynolds is bringing his own brand of cheeky humor to the Hospital for Sick Children's holiday campaign. He even did a little improv.
In fact, the part of the video in the middle where you see him interacting with one of our doctors and an IV pole machine, that was completely improv on the day. And for me personally, it's one of the funniest parts of the film.
In the video, shot in late August, Reynolds is assisted again by Toronto Maple Leaf star Austin Matthews and a group of wonderfully noisy kids.
We have a database of over 300 patient ambassador families. So we got a sense from a script that Ryan wrote what kinds of kids he was looking for. And then we just reached out to some of those families.
Over the years, the campaign has raised a total of $2.3 million for the hospital. And this year, they're hoping to cross the $3 million mark with donations to SickKids.SweaterLove.ca.
All of the money raised through the Ryan Reynolds campaign is going towards what we call the highest priority needs of the hospital. So these are the things that the staff need immediately.
And if you want a Sick Kids holiday sweater for yourself, you can get one at the hospital gift shop or online at the SickKids555shop.ca. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Neck guards will be required for all international hockey competition. The IIHF made the announcement today, but the exact date this mandate goes into effect will be determined by the supply of the neck protectors. Their use has been increasing since the death of former Pittsburgh Penguin Adam Johnson, who was playing in England.
Accolades continue to pour in tonight for Canadian filmmaker Charles Officer.
Officer was an award-winning creative who died suddenly yesterday. Our Andrea Case joins us now with his story. Andrea.
Michelle and Nathan, good evening. Now, speaking of hockey, if things had worked out differently, instead of directing, Charles Officer might have been a professional hockey player. He played in the UK and was drafted by the Calgary Flames, but injury ended his career. Hockey's loss was the film industry's gain.
It was never his goal, but when Ontario College of Art graduate Charles Officer saw an ad for acting classes, it changed his life. A few years later, a conversation with filmmaker and friend Ingrid Venegar, he pitched his first feature film idea.
It's out of this world how many people he touched, how many people he mentored, how many people he gave time to. It's unlike anyone else I've ever met, not only in our industry, but in the world, I would say.
Everybody has got to fight for something. The trick is find out what's worth fighting for.
The film was Nurse, Fighter, Boy. They co-wrote it together and Veninger produced it. It premiered at TIFF in 2008 and was nominated for 10 Genie Awards. Officer stories always centered around Black voices, their experiences, and their stories.
I was told in notes, you know, this is too hard for our mainline audience. I asked them, who's this audience that they're talking about?
A recent project, The Porter, the story of North America's first Black-led union, brought together a Black crew, cast, and creatives. It won a record-setting 12 Canadian Screen Awards. In the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, he helped create the Black Screen Office. Programmer Andy Marshall.
There was an immense need for a Black Screen Office here, an organization that would promote Black stories and try to create more accessibility for Black creators to get funding to get those stories out there. This is part of Charles's DNA.
The Toronto Black Film Festival's Fabian Cola says this is a tremendous loss.
We're losing a lot by everything. He will not be contributing anymore now, but he has done enough so that we can hang on to these and celebrate his memory, his work, all he did to advance the cause of inclusion.
Charles Officer died following a long illness and complications following a heart attack.
That's why I've been busting my butt, and I decided to do those films, not because I had a plan, it's because they needed to be done.
He's survived by his partner and his 2-year-old son. Charles Officer was 48 years old.
I interviewed Charles on a number of occasions, but mostly our conversations were quiet moments at events and parties. And when his latest film, Achilles' Escape, debuted at TIFF in 2020, he declined being interviewed, instead giving the spotlight and the opportunity to his cast. Always wanted to shine that spotlight on others. Reporting for CTV News, I'm Andrea Case.
The Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boys court-approved liquidation sale.
After the break, struggling toy chain Mastermind is being sold. A group of retailers, including a veteran Canadian entrepreneur, make a deal. What it'll mean for dozens of stores this holiday season after this short break.
On the next CP24 Breakfast,
tech expert Mark Saltzman will be dropping by with some important cyber safety tips to protect yourself and those new devices you unwrap over the holidays.
CP24 Breakfast up first at 5:30.
I work downtown. I'm downtown for most of the day, and I can't pick up anybody.
Updating our top stories, Uber Canada is taking the City of Toronto to court over a surprise decision to freeze the number of ride-sharing licenses. Mayor Olivia Chow says the cap helps address congestion and reduces greenhouse gas emissions.
It's so huge, so heated, the heat was too much.
Flames destroyed 4 homes under construction in Burlington early this morning. This happened near Dundas Street West and Walker's Line. It is the latest in a string of what police say are suspicious fires in the area.
I just looked at it and said, please don't kick me, and I started to back up, and then I let the police officer go in front of me.
After more than 3 days on the run in Oshawa, an escaped kangaroo has been captured and safely returned to the city's zoo. Durham police says the kangaroo was spotted at around 6 this morning near Winchester Road, the same area it was last seen on Friday. Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar changed hands at 73.85 U.S. cents, down 1/4 cent. North American benchmark oil settled at $73.04, down $1.03. And the TSX Composite ended at 20,410, down just over 42 points.
Mastermind Toys is selling the bulk of its stores in Canada. The Toronto-based retailer has reached an agreement with Unity Acquisitions, Inc. Mastermind says 18 of his locations are due to close, including 9 in Ontario. A significant portion of employees will stay on. Financial terms of the deal were not disclosed, but is subject to approval from the Ontario Superior Court of Justice. All 66 stores will remain open during the holiday season.
In sports, the NBA's first in-season tournament is now in the knockout stage, and with excitement building, the league has unveiled the lineup of trophies for the showcase. This is the NBA Cup, which will be awarded Saturday. It's made of sterling silver, coated in 24-karat gold and black ceramic. The in-season tournament MVP trophy features black and gold with 2 stems mirroring the championship design. Well, this is as festive as it gets. Airbnb offers the ultimate holiday experience, an adventure to Santa's cabin in a snowy corner of the world. We'll take you on a tour just ahead.
Inside the shocking deathbed confession of a father and fugitive.
I was absolutely floored. Could not have been more shocked.
How a wanted man came clean to his family decades after an infamous bank robbery. Later on CTV National News.
A reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Airbnb wants to host the ultimate holiday experience.
Very close to the North Pole. The company is giving away 3 nights at a cabin decked out in Christmas decor in northern Finland. The home is in Rovaniemi and is dubbed Santa's Cabin. The town also has what it calls the official Santa Claus post office. The winners can volunteer to help sort through thousands of letters there. They'll even be supplied with elf attire to help get into the spirit. That's good. You need the attire.
Loving that snow. Well, how picturesque. Our picture here down here is a little bit rainier, a little bit milder.
I would say in general this week as we look ahead, we're looking at temperatures getting milder at the end of the week. It's been relatively mild today. If we take a look at our radar and satellite imagery, of course, we've seen some flurries through the region today, a lot more than that in eastern Ontario. But that's wrapping up as we get into the next little while. And it's just more cloud cover for the evening and the overnight period. 2 degrees feeling like -2 right now, -6 overnight feeling like -10 with cloud cover. It's going to feel like -10 first thing in the morning. And then, we get back into rain snow mixing Wednesday night into Thursday, and then rain for Saturday and Sunday with those milder temperatures in the upper single digits. So not a lot of snow hanging around on the ground quite yet.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, that's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Michelle Jobin and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.